You know that moment. You're sitting with someone you care about, maybe a friend, a partner, and you can just see it. The wet eyes, the voice kind of cracking, maybe their hands are shaking a little. It's raw, real vulnerability. And our first instinct, almost always, is just to lean right in. We want to help, to understand, to just be there.
And that's a beautiful impulse, truly. But right there, in that desire to be there, something often shifts inside us, almost silently. Suddenly, your own sense of self, your clarity, it starts to get fuzzy. Their panic somehow becomes your panic. Their confusion feels like your confusion.
Yeah.
We've sort of learned to call that empathy, right? This merging, this absorption. But maybe we need to question that. If it leaves you both feeling kind of exhausted and muddled, is it really connection? Or is it more like camouflage? Maybe a failure of perception that we've dressed up as closeness.
That's exactly what we're diving into today. We're looking at the hidden structure, kind of invisible architecture of presence and boundaries. We really need to unpack the difference between genuine contact, the kind that strengthens everyone, and that emotional absorption that just leaves you feeling hollowed out, finding the structure underneath it all.
Okay, let's try a visual. Think about like an ink blot test, maybe. Imagine two distinct shapes on a white page. Let's say one's clearly a bird, sharp edges, and the other is, I don't know, a fist. Solid, defined, you can trace them easily. But now imagine the ink starts to run. Maybe the paper gets wet. The shapes dissolve, right? The bird bleeds into the fist blurs into the bird. And what are you left with? Just this single kind of shapeless stain.
And weirdly, that stain is what we often think is the goal.
Yeah.
We're kind of conditioned to believe that caring means losing your own shape, especially in a crisis. We mix up dissolving ourselves with positive things like compassion, sacrifice, closeness. The message is to really get someone, you have to become them.
But from a perception standpoint, especially thinking in Gestalt terms, it's missing the structure. Perception isn't passive. It's this dynamic field. You've got the figure that's what's sharp, in focus, demanding attention. In this case, the other person's pain might be the figure. And then there's the ground, the background, the context, what supports the figure.
Okay.
When you dissolve into someone else's emotional state like that, what you're actually doing is surrendering your own figure. You're letting yourself recede into the background noise until essentially you vanish.
So my figure is my own center, my clarity, my footing, maybe. And the ground is the steady supportive context I provide. And when I collapse into their feeling, I lose my center and just become part of the background static. And then nobody's really anchored.
Precisely. That vanishing act isn't some deeper empathy. It's an erasure. It's losing the observer. And if dissolution is a collapse, then real contact needs the opposite. It needs sharpening. It needs you to maintain your structure.
Okay, but hang on. That feels really counterintuitive. Sharpening myself when someone else is falling apart. Won't that just come across as cold? Or like detached and intellectual? How do we stop that structure from just becoming a wall?
That's the crucial tension, isn't it? It's not about building a wall. Think about music. Imagine a cello. Maybe it's playing this deep, sorrowful melody. It's vibrating with grief. Now, picture a violinist playing alongside it. Does the violinist drop her bow? Does she try to vibrate at the exact same low frequency as the cello?
No, she listens intently, yeah. But then she plays alongside it. Her own melody interacts with the cellos. It holds space for it, maybe offers harmony or counterpoint. Her sound stays distinct, clear, alive.
Exactly. Her boundary, her distinctness is actually what allows the cello's sorrow to be heard more fully, to be witnessed without being drowned out or absorbed. It's two structures resonating together, not fusing into one shapeless sound. That's contact. It's not coldness, it's presence. And that's the lesson we often miss, isn't it? We get told, put yourself in their shoes, but nobody really tells us, but keep your own feet.
Yeah. Or warns us that their chaos isn't actually our job to fix or soak up.
Right. We weren't told that. Instead, we kind of learned that feeling drained is the proof we cared enough.
Oh, that rings so true. I remember this one time a friend was going through a major career crisis, and I spent basically a whole weekend just diving in, trying to fix it, strategize, giving up all my own plans. Looking back, I realized I was mostly projecting my own anxieties about career stuff onto the situation. I felt totally wrecked afterwards, but I thought, wow, I was such a supportive friend. Total absorption.
That's a perfect example. It brings to mind this classic scenario. Let's call her Anna. Anna visits her mother every Sunday, and every Sunday her mother talks at length about how lonely she is, how afraid she is, and Anna listens very patiently. But every time she leaves feeling utterly depleted, hollowed out, yet she's convinced she's doing the right thing, being present and supportive.
But that feeling of depletion is the clue, isn't it? It suggests something else is going on.
It absolutely is. If we use our Gestalt language here,
Yeah.
Anna isn't truly present. She's porous. She's not being supportive in a structural way. She's substituting herself, her energy, for her mother's. She's not really listening to understand. She's absorbing the feeling. She's let her internal boundary dissolve. Her mother's emotional field is essentially overriding her own clarity. And that depletion, it's not intimacy, it's more like an emotional invasion, frankly, just disguised as devotion. And it doesn't actually clarify anything for either of them.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me. The paradox you mentioned earlier. When we feel completely lost in someone else's stuff, we think it's because we're feeling too much of them. But you're saying it's the opposite. The more we dissolve, the less clearly we see them.
That's the twist, exactly.
Yeah.
When your own center, your figure gets lost, your perceptual lens immediately distorts. You actually stop seeing their reality clearly. Instead, you start projecting your own baggage onto them, your own unfinished business, your old emotional patterns.
But you think you're feeling their sadness.
But maybe what you're actually feeling is your own unresolved stuff. Maybe that old feeling of helplessness from childhood, or some grief you haven't dealt with that just got triggered by their situation.
Wow. Okay, so the focus isn't even their pain anymore. The figure becomes my reaction to their pain, my anxiety about it, my need to fix it.
Precisely. If you're ungrounded, the figure shifts. It's no longer their lived experience that's front and center. It's your reaction, your anxiety, your urge to fix, maybe your fear of not being helpful enough. Their actual suffering gets kind of demoted. It becomes background noise, just a trigger for your own internal storm. We rush in, often not to truly meet them, but to manage our own discomfort, our own unfinished gestalts.
Okay, so the fix isn't detachment. Building a wall just cuts off connection entirely, which isn't the goal either. So if it's not detachment and it's not absorption, the answer has to be structural, about how we hold ourselves in that moment.
Structure and awareness, those are the keys. And awareness is the very first act of preserving that structure. We have to notice the silent dynamics, the geometry of the interaction before we just react on autopilot.
Okay, let's make that really practical. Something you can actually try. Next time you're with someone who's emotional, before you jump in, just pause. Take maybe 3 conscious breaths and notice. First, check your body. Are you physically mirroring their posture? Are your shoulders up around your ears? Second, your breath. Is it shallow? Are you holding it? Is it synced up with theirs? Third, what's the story in your head? Are your thoughts immediately about fixing or judging, or just about managing how uncomfortable you feel?
And that pause, that noticing, it isn't about judging yourself, it's just awareness. It's how you start to find your anchor again, restore your own figure. When things feel emotionally charged, sometimes the simplest way back to your ground is physical. Feel your feet. Notice the chair supporting you. It reconnects you to the simple fact. I am here.
Okay, so once you've found that ground, even momentarily, what does true contact look like structurally?
It's about being able to say, at least internally, I am here as myself, with my own edges intact. That shifts you. You stop being this porous sponge soaking everything up, and you become more like a stable container, a clear witness, staying whole when someone else is falling apart. It's not betrayal, it's not indifference, it's actually fidelity. Fidelity to your own capacity to truly be supportive, and also fidelity to their capacity to find their own footing eventually.
But still, that feeling persists, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That holding your shape feels wrong when they're melting down.
Yeah.
We confuse merging with really feeling with them. This is where that idea of resonance is so important, right?
It's the radical Gestalt truth, really.
Yeah.
You actually cannot feel their pain. You can only ever feel yourself responding while in their presence. Think about tuning forks. You strike one fork, it vibrates. And a second fork nearby, if it's tuned the same, will start to vibrate too.
Right.
But it vibrates not because it somehow merged with the first one or absorbed its metal. It vibrates because its own structure is attuned to resonate with that frequency.
Ah, okay, so the vibration, the feeling I get, it tells me about me. It's like a diagnostic tool for my own system. The quality of that resonance, whether it's anxiety that flares up, or maybe anger, or even a deep calm, tells me about my own structure, my boundaries, where my center is.
Exactly. That resonance reveals your structure, your history. When you're fully grounded, you're like that whole intact instrument. You feel the vibration, yes, but you recognize it as your response, informed by your past, your makeup. And paradoxically, the more clearly you feel yourself in that moment, the less likely you are to distort the other person by projecting your own unresolved stuff onto them.
That is a huge shift in perspective. So the practice, the thing to work on day to day, is about consciously choosing where to put our focus in that emotional space between people.
Yes. Focus on the feel, the space between you. Resist the urge to immediately jump in, to fill the silence, or to force yourself to feel something specific. Let them be the figure. Let their experience emerge clearly. And let yourself consciously become the ground. But, and this is key, it needs to be supportive ground, not passive, not empty, but a steady, reliable presence that allows their figure, their pain, their story to stand out clearly without pulling you down into that shapeless stain we talked about.
It might sound demanding, this kind of structured clarity, maybe even a bit cold initially, but what you're really saying is that this grounded presence is actually the deepest, most effective form of care. When you remain whole, you create a genuinely safe environment for them to explore their own feelings without the added burden of managing your reaction or pulling you under with them.
And we realize we don't actually lose ourselves in the other person. We lose ourselves in our own unfinished business, our own lack of grounding. So the path to truly connecting with them often involves checking back in with yourself first. Breathe. Feel your edges. Restore your own figure. Emotional contact, seen this way, becomes this incredibly profound opportunity for self-revelation.
This whole conversation really reframes empathy, doesn't it? It's not about becoming a psychic sponge or just disappearing. It's about deepening your own presence, maintaining your perceptual integrity. Real contact actually roots you more firmly in yourself. It clarifies you.
And that clarity, that grounded presence, is maybe the most generous thing you can offer another person. So perhaps, here's a thought, maybe an unsettling question, to carry into your next interaction, your next moment of connection with someone who's struggling. Ask yourself, silently, am I feeling them right now? Or am I feeling the ghost of myself, the parts I try not to see?
Because that moment you stop trying to become the other person, that might be the exact moment you finally truly begin to meet them. So maybe the invitation is just to stand your ground, breathe, feel your edges, and let your own internal rhythm, your own truth, your own song resonate alongside theirs. Creating a kind of harmony, perhaps, without needing to merge into one note. That feels like the space where real connection, maybe even healing, can actually happen.